Why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role?
Hey, what up, y'all? Yo, I'm Jordan Jones, and I play jazz on the hit series Bel-Air.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassandra Freeman. I play Aunt Viv.
I'm Adrian Holmes, and I play Uncle Phil.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Akingbola, and I play Jeffrey.
Hi, Coco Jones. I play Hillary.
Akira Akbar, and I play Ashley.
I'm Rasheed Newson, one of the co-showrunners.
AKA Boss.
All right, first question. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Can I get a mic? All right. Obviously, can you talk about
Name, outlet.
the success of the show and being here at ABFF and showcasing how you were able to turn heads? Because I know prior to the show, people were like, oh, it's a reboot, we don't need this. But we're here now. You've captivated the world because you guys been going everywhere and people are applauding because this is a good series.
I'll jump on this one. All right. We're incredibly proud of the hard work of the cast and crew in this first season. Coming here feels a lot like homecoming. We made this series during the pandemic. We were sort of in a bubble. We finished filming before the show aired, and so it's nice to finally have some feedback and to be around people who love the show and to bask in that.
We're good.
Hi guys, Justin D. Jenkins from the Quintessential Gentleman. So we're a publication dedicated to the stories of Black men. Can you tell us, what do you think Black boys can learn from relationships on the show?
Well, I think what we do very well is just allowing you to be vulnerable. We show that it's okay to be vulnerable and to just scenes with Jeffrey and I. That's very, very intense. Very, very. You jump in on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very important to show young Black men that you can be very, very vulnerable, that our sense of brothership. What I love about it, that we're equals, and we're not leaning towards, I feel, the old school, stereotypes or tropes in terms of when you look at Black men on screen. I think what Rasheed and TJ and the whole writers team done great about characters is to explore a whole new avenue in terms of Black male stories. And so I just think, but I don't think actually, what I hear is that young Black men are enjoying watching these type of characters on TV, and they're realizing that there's been an absence of it. And so if this can be a little trigger to more nuanced storytelling within TV, then so be it. But it's just an honor to be a part of a fantastic show and have this amazing family.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Selena Hill from Black Enterprise. If you could just make sure I'm recording. If you could just speak to the pressure that you had to deal with when filming this show, with The Fresh Prince being such an iconic series.
I think there's always pressure to mess with a classic, especially in the Black community, where something that's for us is we hold it really dear to our heart. You don't want to, break. You don't want to fix something if it's not broken, kind of thing. But what I love about Bel-Air is that you get to love this iconic classic more and in a different way. And it also is a reminder of where we come from. If we wouldn't have had that show, there would be several shows that we get to enjoy and several ways that we get to be represented. So I think it's showing honor. But of course there's pressure. You don't want people to not enjoy it or to find things in the storyline that don't add up or make sense to them or that they don't accept. You want to feel accepted by your community, but I think what we did with Bel-Air is honor a classic as well as show new ways to represent being Black, and it was for our culture. So there's a lot of pressure, but it's a great pressure, it's a great responsibility, and I think we did a good job.
Yeah, I have a question back here. Lorenzo Ice-T Thomas from Celebrity Page TV and Star 94.5. First and foremost, I want to give you all a round of applause for putting on a great series.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I could not wait until the next episode came on it was a Peacock, right? Whose idea was it to make it a little different? Of course, your character, Jeffrey, was more gangster. Philip was dancing in a fraternity. Aunt Viv was about to step out, you know, with Michael Ealy's character. Those different nuances. But those different nuances made the series different, right? Whose idea was it to make those changes so it would be different from the original?
That's all Morgan Cooper.
Rasheed can answer that. Yeah.
No, this is always a dangerous question because in the end, 5 or 6 people will think they had that same idea. They'll remember it. There are some ideas, however.
Why do you say it was so dangerous, though?
It's a dangerous question because if I get it wrong, I'll hear about it.
Okay.
But there are a lot of things in this show that absolutely come from Morgan Cooper and the trailer he made and the tone he set. You know, when you talk about Jeffrey being a G, first day of the writer's room, Morgan Cooper walked in with that idea. And I remember thinking, well, how does that work? And it works very well.
Very well.
Some of the other storylines that developed later in the season, that comes from the writer's room, and there are about 10 people who will all we spend hours a day kicking around ideas until something sticks. But the architecture of the idea that you're going to take this show and flip it on its head, that was in Morgan's trailer. That's what inspired the whole idea. That's why we're all here now.
Now, did all the actors and actresses embrace it?
Yeah, I always remember my first conversation with Morgan saying we're not doing the Butler thing and this is why we're going to go in this direction. And for me, that spoke to me. I feel like Morgan's trailer sort of, it went viral, but it also showed you that the only way you could redo Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is as a drama. And for me, I wanted to show a different type of Jeffrey that represented, the black culture from a British perspective as well. And I feel like the original G was one end of the spectrum and this one's the other end, but also he's not a stereotype, he is nuanced, he's comfortable in the streets and he's comfortable in the mansions and the boardrooms. And it's just really nice to play with these fantastic, iconic, nuanced characters. And like Coco said, everything we do, everything that TJ Rasheed do in the writer's room, it comes with love and respect to the original. It's the detail, right? Whether you look at that artwork, whether you see the first 8 minutes of the first episode, which is basically our version of the original song. There's so much throughout this series that if you do watch the series a couple of times, you find all these little Easter egg gems.
I also, to that question, I want to give credit to the cast because what happens throughout the season is they are bringing their talents and their interpretation to the role, and our job is to sort of pay attention to that, and that informs the story. I mean, when I think of like Coco and Jordan in their first scene together, I did not expect there to be that much chemistry.
Right.
I thought that storyline would be he would like her and she would sort of look down at him. But Coco played it like, what do you got? And so, and we're sitting there going, well, let's run with that. There's something here, and story can be changed by performance all the time.
Yeah, I think just to add one last thing, I think that's what makes this show so special to me is that from the writer's room down to the actors, we're just like looking for like what is the truth? What's like the authentic truth? And I think you can feel that in the music, in the acting, and in the choices that people make. And I know when we first started working with Morgan in that first episode, he was always just like, don't think about, the original Aunt Viv's. He's like, think about like, who is Aunt Viv in 2022? These are your shoes to fill. Don't try to do those shoes. And I think that really released us all from this pressure that we had to keep a mold. Instead, it was like, what does that thing look like today? And I just remember when I interviewed with Rasheed and Morgan, that freed me up so much because it felt very claustrophobic to think we had to redo something that was done so brilliantly. It was lightning in a bottle, and it was nice to think like, oh, my idea of Aunt Viv would be she would never let go of where she came from. I'd like the culture to see that instead of like this bougie idea that now you're rich, you have to let go that you're from Philly or that you're people from the South. Like, and I think we all came with like a very certain point of view about we got to keep this, but we got to let go of that because that doesn't seem so authentic. And Morgan Cooper's so much about truth. It's like music. It's like it's either on key or off key, and that's how we kind of do this show.
Yeah, it took a lot of the pressure off to know that we didn't have to, that we could be our authentic selves and just put our own spin on these iconic characters. So we were able to just have fun. And the scripts, again, they're so well written. Like every time we got a script, it was like Christmas. We're like, okay, what do we get to do? What's happening in this episode? And it's just been a dream come true to be able to get to play these characters and bring this nostalgic show back to life for this generation, so that they can have the experience that we had from the original in the 90s. So it's very surreal.
Okay, next question is here from Revolt. Just an announcement that, of course, we're here to talk about Bel-Air right now. We're not talking about any previous characters or anything like that.
Hi, Kennedy Rue from Revolt. Rasheed, you talked about the cast bringing their own interpretations to these characters, and you talk about not fitting the molds, but maybe breaking the mold. Can each of you talk about your characters and the undertaking of bringing these people to life, what ways you relate to them and what ways you differ to them, and what you want the audience to take away ultimately from your characters?
Well, I think one of the main things that everybody has probably already touched on is the fact that, we kind of bring ourselves to the characters. Obviously, this is a 2022 version, it's a drama. So when it comes to jazz specifically, I was talking to Jeffrey, DJ Jazzy Jeff, and actually, there was no point where I had to kind of hone into what he did or do or react, the way that he did. And I think Rasheed, Morgan, TJ, they want us to do that. They want us to bring our own interpretation to the character. So in the trailer, or whatever the case may be, I wasn't like, oh, how would jazz really do this? I took my own interpretation. At the end of the day, I feel like I want to take, or let me say this, I think that I want people to take from my character as that jazz, in a way, has some sense. You know what I mean? At the end, we, as a cast, and well, I'll just say me specifically, when I'm talking to Coco or Hillary or Will, I'm giving them kind of what I've gone through in this, and you guys will see that in season 2 and seasons on, but I feel like my character is so different when it comes to, giving advice. And I always say this to Jabbar, that I'm like Will's Jiminy Cricket. And I'm like a genius.
Yeah, it would come out.
But that's what I want people to take from my character specifically. It's so different from the original, and I want people to be like, oh, Jazz is, he's cool. He actually, has, a voice of reason in a way. But I can only really, speak for myself.
The main thing I thought about when I took on Viv was after we read like the first script, I just thought, oh, I always was like, do we know what a real black woman looks like in America? No, we don't, because capitalism, white supremacy, motherhood, daughter. And I love that they wrote her in this world where she got to become something. So she started off like, she's so perfect. And that's usually what happens in the world of these worlds where you have a matriarch, the patriarch, they're like set and they don't get to change. And I love that from the beginning, they're like, no, she's gonna start like this, but she's going somewhere. So I love the idea of her starting off trying to be like this Michelle Obama prototype. Like, what does it mean to be the perfect wife to a man who's running for office? And then slowly she gets to become like who she really is. And I don't think we've even seen the full breadth of like who she is if nobody was looking, if there was no oppression around her. Now you have all this money, you get more opportunities. And the last thing I always like to say about Vivian Banks is that, I'm so tired of the trope that black women are strong, because if something's strong, then you can break it. So I'm interested in also just showing
the vulnerability of this woman. Like, what does it look like to have a vulnerable relationship with your husband, to not be so strong, to be weak, to be confused, and then to find yourself, to get messy when Michael Ealy shows up. Is it Michael Ealy or is it her art calling her? You know, I love that things aren't so perfect, because life isn't black or white, it's a whole lot of gray.
For me, well, Philip Banks is, he's an energy, he's a vibe, he's a presence. And I just, I knew that, you know, I watched the original show in real time, and what the late, great James Avery did, you know, was amazing. And, you know, there's no way I could ever recreate what he did. I just had to honor what he did. And, you know, he laid out the blueprint for me. So I just, you know, tapped into myself and connected with the energy and the essence of who this man is, and just being a good father, a good husband, and a good brother, a good friend. You know, he's vulnerable, he listens, he's like a moral compass. He's that, you know, he's just got a real great presence and energy, and I just wanted to just, you know, connect it with Will and all these characters in the show. They also, like Will in particular, put a mirror up to me, showing me who I really am. Coming back from Yamakra, and you know, being in Bel-Air now, you know, I got all this money, and I don't really connect with the, you know, my brothers like I used to. So that scene in particular was very, very strong, in the sense that he really helped me to figure out who I am and connect with, you know, my roots in that way. But I just want people to take from Phil that, you know, it's okay to listen to your, you know, to your partner, and to support, and, you know, whatever she wants to do, you know, you can do what you want to do, as well as she can do what she wants to do. She doesn't have to stop what she wants to do, her dreams for you. And also with the kids, just to listen to your kids. Take time, you know, we get caught up in our careers, and a lot of times we just forget about, you know, stopping and just taking time to listen to your kids and figure out what they're going through on a day-to-day. And I love that he also is starting to make time for that. Season 2 is going to be, it's going to be really interesting how we kind of dive into that more. I'm just looking forward to it, and I'm just honored to be in this position and have this assignment.
For me, as Adrian said before, it's surreal. You know, you sort of grow up watching in the UK. This was a huge show for us. 6 p.m. every Tuesday, I think it was. But when I look at Jeffrey, someone told me the other day that Jeffrey is the most iconic British character on US TV, and I was like, wow, that's deep. But when I think of the original, I feel like there's lots of gaps. There was so much I want to know about this Jeffrey, and what the writers have done really was to create this mystery and this nuance, because we're not just one way as people. And then I suppose for me and myself, I've been in LA 5 years, you know, sort of trying to, you know, not trying, chasing the dream. And so I brought a lot of that to it. When you move to the US, get your green card, you know, you compete in with the best there is, as well as your contemporaries in the UK. You struggle, you have to remember where you come from. You know, there's that identity, you miss your family. I've lost family members. I wrestle with the guilt. I'm not there for my family, I lost people, but I'm trying to go for my thing. So when Morgan and Rasheed and TJ say, look, this Jeffrey's from Jamaica, born but grew up in East London, and you know, he's been in LA for quite a few years, and him and Phil go way back. I can't give you that detail yet. It's gonna come. I'm like, yo, it's about the combination of all those things. My lived experience, my knowing, and like Katsi said, I want to be authentic. I want young, especially young black Brits, to see it, go and see themselves, you know, because there's a lot that wouldn't see themselves in the original version, you know. There were a lot that would, but there's a lot that wouldn't. And so for me, it was about pouring myself into it, but also tapping into the love, right? The way I roll with my boys, we say, I love you, we hug, you know what I mean? We do cry, you know, we laugh and joke, and that's what's written on the page for me and Adrian. So there's not that much of a reach for me to what to play. It's actually, but what I do acknowledge that it's still rare to get to do that on screen. And so I just really wanted to show that Jeffrey, he's Uncle G, he loves them all, and he's got his individual relationships with everybody, but also he's the man that gets stuff done, isn't he? He's a house manager, he's just house manager.
Okay, so me and Hillary are similar in the fact that we both want these specific dreams for ourselves, and we don't have a seat at the table, but we're just as qualified to be there. So we constantly have all these barriers and all these doors that we have to break down, but it's like, I'm actually good at this, so why aren't you convinced, you know? I think we're also very confident, but that doesn't mean that life doesn't shake us, you know? And honestly, we're not that different. What I want people to get from Hillary is that even though she comes from this upper echelon upbringing, she's still striving for things you can't buy. Like, she wants to be a CEO and a boss. She wants to have control of her audience and her content and not be manipulated into whatever lane is the most marketable, you know? She doesn't want to have to sell her soul, in a sense, you know? Her recipes are how she taps into her culture, and she doesn't want to have to water that down. And that's something that you have to earn. And sometimes, even though like you're qualified, you don't get that opportunity, or you don't get that job or that acknowledgement. But what I love about Hillary and what I want people to see from her is the tenacity of her. Like, she's still figuring out her life, and sometimes she goes left when she definitely should have went right. But that's what makes her relatable. I want people to see Hillary as relatable and see themselves in her. And also, I want to continue to represent dark-skinned Black beauty. Yes. That's so crucial for the girls who look like me who are coming up.
So for Ashley, me and her are the same because I feel like we both love the same way. Like, we're always there to listen to people if they need help, or, you know, we're just always there for advice. And what I wanted to portray in this new Ashley is just a new sense of this new age. You know, in the original Ashley, it was just different, you know. This new Ashley, she struggles with who she is, and I think that's really relatable to, especially 2022, and I just want people to know that they can be themselves and they don't have to be afraid for who they are.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen with Nocturnal, and my question is, I really like the bonds that you guys built on set, and I wanted to know, how did you guys prepare for that?
I don't know if you prepare for it. They did it. You know, I feel like when you get on when you're lucky enough to be cast on a show like this, it's almost like there's an immediate like fraternity or sorority that happens. It's like, yo, we just got initiated into this thing. And I feel like from the first day we all met, it felt like, oh my God, so you're out there, oh, you're here, it was like love at first sight. But I always think about my first day on set. I wasn't even working that day. This is the scene where, you know, they're at the party at the first episode, and Carlton punches homeboy. His name's Will. Carlton punches Will in that first episode. Jabbar. And so I always think I showed up on set that day just to show something, and I'm meeting everyone. We're like in a circle, and all of a sudden I hear, I'm Viv, and it's Jabbar. He comes over and he like hugs me and almost fall down. It was like, I just felt like it was love from hello. It was never like, oh, this is awkward, let's be weird.
Yeah.
I remember, I echo what everyone here said. It's, we were all just huge fans of the original show from jump, and we knew how important this was. And we wanted it to really land and to be a hit, and so we just connected and we just like joined forces like Voltron, you know. We're just like, okay, let's do this. And
can I just say, even from our first table read, I became fans of everybody from the first table read. I was like, oh my God, Jabbar, oh my God, Coco, oh my God, Uncle Phil is really Uncle Phil. Like the way y'all probably felt, that's how I felt. And I was actually nervous to even meet people, because I was like, oh, like I felt like they were stars already, and that was from a table read from Zoom, okay?
Yeah, we were just all excited just to be here, and it was just, again, ordained from God. And you know, we don't take it for granted at all. We know how special this is and how lucky we all are. You know, we've been in this business for a while, and we love to work. And you know, to get an opportunity like this It's something you don't take for granted, and that's why I love this business, because you just don't know what's going to happen, what's around the corner. There's a saying, stay in the ring and keep throwing punches, because you never know when you're going to hit your dream on the job. And when I heard that, I got goosebumps, because there's been moments where you're like, oh, why haven't I gotten that break, and your friends are like, oh, you've been doing this so long, why don't you try something else? But as long as that pilot light is burning, you keep that pilot light on, and you're always going to, you're always going to stay in the game. And no matter how long it takes, you'll have that patience, because you also love what you do. When you love what you do, it doesn't matter how long it takes, because it does not work, right? So this moment came from all of us just staying in the ring and throwing punches. And, here we are. We hit our dream on the job.
Great, thank you. We're going to go to a couple of one-on-ones. So we're going to ask Bel-Air to come up. 5 minutes, one question.
Yeah, how are we going to do it?
Hey.
I'm good. You're good? Yes.
First of all, y'all, the meeting that we had yesterday was amazing. Everybody's energy was so good, and I can see how excited and proud that you guys are of this project, as you should be. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And anybody can answer this question. I think it's really cool that Ashley plays an LGBTQ character in this version of Bel-Air. Why was it important to add this element?
I think it was important to add this element because this Bel-Air is like in this new age where kids are actually struggling with this, and just showing it on screen helps them realize that they shouldn't be afraid of who they are, and yeah, they just shouldn't be afraid.
Will and Carlton go through many ups and downs in their relationships, and they finally have come to a point where they're on common ground. What can we expect from their relationship in season 2? And do you think there will possibly be any more tiffs?
They're still going to clash, but there's not that animosity anymore in the sense of it's personal. It won't come from I hate you and I don't trust you. It will come from the fact that they have two different worldviews. And so even when they're on the same team, they have very different ideas about how they should address the problem.
What was the highlight on set? Were there any funny moments that you haven't shared yet?
Yeah, I was the highlight on everything. No.
I was going to say, one of the highlights was definitely when Daphne Maxwell showed up, and she did that episode, and I just remember Daphne Maxwell and Renee Watson, when they showed up, like people who didn't even work that day showed up on set, and executives showed up that day on set, and it just felt like a mixture of Christmas and like a horror show at the same time, to have to act against, one of the original ABFF. So that was one of the most exciting days for me.
I would say, for me, I think the most exciting day for me was when Marlon Wayans showed up as the dad. Not to get too personal, but like my dad is not around, so when I came there, I wasn't shooting that day, and I came and I watched, and just that whole entire scene between Marlon and Jabari, man, it actually brought me to tears across several times, just because it hit home, but also because on the call sheet, usually our names are next to our character, and they kept leaving it blank. We were trying to guess the whole season who was going to be the dad. And when he finally was up there, man, he did such a great job. He doesn't get the respect he deserves, being like a dramatic, serious actor because of how great he is in comedy. So that day really hit home for me, and that was definitely a highlight for me. For real.
Last question.
Would you be friends with your character in real life?
Jazz the coolest.
100%.
I would say yeah. Me and Henry are basically the same. People are like, "How do you play Henry?" I'm like, I'm just myself.
Fabulous.
me and Jeffrey aren't completely the same, but I mean, I'll be his friend because he gets stuff hammered. You know what I mean? But sorted. Yeah, sorted.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be friends with Philip Banks as well. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I mean, Jazz is cooler than me. I'm not as cool as Jazz. I don't dress like I'm more like, quirky. Yeah, I would for sure be friends with Jazz. Yeah.
What is Negro? You
Really?
Jazz too. I don't know what you're talking. That's why it's like some spiritual alchemy, ancestors' hand on this, that they found the right soul to hit all of these people. I mean, I think the better question would be like, who's furthest away from their character? And maybe it's Jimmy. Because Jimmy is mysterious and he is everywhere and nowhere at once. But he don't answer things in like one word sentences like that. But I think we'd all be friends because these are all good people. I mean, Ali. I wonder what Ali would say. Ali would be a menace to Carlton in real life, bro.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna get a last one-on-one to Sheen Magazine.
Did you guys cool each other?
Got the memo.
Sheen Magazine. So I want to know, from the original Fresh Prince, is there any element from the original show you would like to see on the new show that you all bring any element?
Rasheed.
There's certain elements we'd like to bring on. There's still some other characters from that universe we'd like to see show up on our show. On the original, we saw, for example, Uncle Phil's mom. That's a character I think would like to see join our campus.
And last question, for whatever reason, there was a lot of Black Twitter went in on Carlton's character this year, and I saw a lot of you all take up for him via social media. Why do you think Black Twitter came for him so hard this season?
You saw the show. You see
I feel like it was a little personal how they was coming.
Well, you take anything that's iconic, and then you take the most iconic, likable character on Fresh Prince, and then you make him so unlikable. And I think I felt like everybody in the country had to do therapy on, well, who do you think Carlton was if you brought him into real life? And in real life, even in the 90s, y'all had jokes about him. He's a clown. So if you take it out of the sitcom and you bring it today, it almost makes the 90s version almost feel like I'm looking for a nicer word than just a clown. But I don't think we ever got to see the depth of who that type of person is and what kind of little boy who is microaggressed his entire life around white people, told you're attractive to be a black boy, you're smart to be a black boy got money. What happens to that mind? You start to think, maybe I need to not be so black in the culture, maybe I need to be more European. What is it to be the N-word? Of course that's what that is. And then I think what's great about this show though is that the writers did such a great job of trying to implode the idea of why is being black so monolithic? Why can't be black be so much more expansive? Being a woman is an expansive idea too. I think in general, in our culture, the American culture in general, needs to really open up what does it mean to be a spirit, to be a human, right? Yep. That's why sexuality is a problem. LGBTQ, these are divine people, right? To be a black woman is like black magic. To be a black man is to be a king, but it doesn't mean you can't have vulnerability and some blind spots. So, you have to do some deep thinking about the conditioning that's happened to us as black people coming from slavery. And I think that's what Twitter was triggered. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love what you did there. It's true. And I just think there's a couple of things. One, it shows how good Buddy is as an actor, and two, because if people are hating him, it's for a reason, because he's so damn good. But also, as a community, I think Cass just tapped on it. There are certain areas within that community where it's like, don't go there. And as a show, we go there. We push hard in areas, a little more subtler in other areas, but we go there. And I think Black Twitter was a complete response to that, but I think it's good. I think we need to have these conversations. When I look at that locker room scene, I'm like, yes, we were in a crowd of people at an event, and you could hear people just not comfortable with it, going, Colton's this, Colton's that. But when you hear what Colton's saying, I'm one of them, like, he's got a point. Do you know what I mean? And other people, no, you can't say that. And then you could hear people start going, I want to hate him, but he's got a point. And I think that's what we need to do as people. We need to have these conversations. You know what I mean? About everything. Otherwise, we get stuck in the same conditioning and repetition from yesteryears. And we want to change that now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any final question? We are wrapped. We thank you so much. Let's give a hand to the